We now join the program already in progress.
What I like to do is sometimes I create individual Jamboards for groups. So I'll create one slide for one group, and then I'll actually create a completely separate slide for another group. Or other times I'll just do one and have, like I did today, different groups on the same Jamboard. So once you have opened a new Jamboard, first thing you might want to do is you might want to click Untitled Jam and name your Jamboard. So let's say that my class is going to do a party flyer. So I might name it Party Flyer. And the next thing you want to do, and this is probably the most important thing that I'm going to teach you this morning, and this is really, really important, is up in the top right corner, there's a blue button that says Share. What happens is you have to make sure that your students not only have access to get to the Jamboard on their computer or their phone, but to edit the Jamboard, because if they don't have permission to edit, this is all a moot point. So you click on Share, and the first thing you want to do is go down here where it says Change Link to LAUSD, because right here it says Restricted. Only people added can open with this link. This will do you no good. So you click on that little blue link, Change Link to LAUSD. You actually don't want it to be LAUSD. You want to click on that arrow and you want to choose anyone with the link. And the reason you want to choose anyone with the link is because we all have students who join us on their phones, and often their phones are not set to their LAUSD emails. And if that's true, then they won't be able to join the Jamboard. So if you change it to anyone with the link, any student using any email account on their phone, on their computer, it doesn't matter, will automatically have access to your Jamboard. The other thing you want to make sure you do is change Viewer, because that means they can only look at it. You want to change it to Editor so they can edit it. And when you're finished, you click Done. And I'm just going to do that again just to make sure everybody understood. So you click Share. Down here where it says Restricted, you want to make sure that it says anyone with the link. And you want to make sure that this is set to Editor, not Viewer. And it's ready to go. Your students will have full access and they can mess around with the Jamboard, which is what you want them to do. So on the left, you have tools. I'm not going to get into all the tools since I don't have that much time, but I'm going to get into the most popular ones, which is right here. This is called a sticky note. And if your students click on the sticky note, you get a little sticky note. They can choose the color of the sticky note that they want. And then they can type whatever they want. And I think they are restricted to, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it's 150 characters. And you see a little blue line at the bottom. Watch as I put characters in, how the blue line grows. And once you get past the limit, it turns red. If that line on the bottom is red, they've written too much. So they're going to have to erase something. If it's blue, it's fine. And once they finish their little note, you just click Save, and the note is right there on the board. If they want to write another note, they can. If they don't want to write another note, they just click Cancel. So now they've got a little sticky note, but they're not finished. They can do things with this note. They can drag the note anywhere they want on the board. The two blue dots on the bottom can be used to make the note bigger or smaller. The blue dot in the top left corner can be used to rotate the note. And finally, the little three dots here, if they don't like the note, they can delete it. If they want to copy it, they can duplicate it. And if they made a spelling error, they can edit it. Oops, I forgot to finish my sentence. Oops. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. And then save.
Mr. Ike, question. There's
Yes.
a question here. Which icon is for sticky notes?
It's right here on the left. It looks like a little sticky note. It's right in the middle. It's that white box with those two lines. So those are sticky notes. Now, one thing you want to make sure your students understand, because we're going to have students collaborating. So there might be 6 on this one Jamboard poster, right? So 6 of us are going to work together on this one poster. Every time you make a sticky note and you save it, it appears right in the same space. So if I do another sticky note, it's going to go right on top of that. Well, actually, mine isn't, but another student's, if another student does a sticky note, it'll appear right on top of mine. So you want to make sure to tell your students to move it. because it might get lost under a pile. So as soon as they make it, they should probably move it somewhere. So those are sticky notes. The other thing that students really love are images, and that's the little box with the two mountains in it, add image. They have the option to upload from their computer or phone. They can use their camera to take a picture, but what I tell my students to do is the third one, Google image search. It's linked right to Google Images. It's the easiest thing to use. And of course, Google has billions and billions of images. So they click Google image search. They just click what they're looking for. Let's say I'm looking for an apple, enter, and you get a bunch of images of apples. You find one that you like, you click on it, and then you click insert, and voila, there it is, right on your Jamboard. And you have the same options you do as your sticky notes, right? The two blue dots on the bottom, bigger, smaller, and it's just a matter of dragging. You can rotate, oops, and again, the three dots, you have the option to delete it, or you can duplicate it if you want. So that's a fun one. They like that one too. And the third one that I like to show my students is the text box. The text box is important. If you click on the text box, if you click that little T icon and you just click anywhere on the Jamboard, a box will appear. The difference between a text box and a sticky note is a text box has no restrictions onto how many characters you can write. You can do as many characters as you want in a text box. The other option with the text box is up here, you can change the size of your letters, but you can also do the same thing by just using those blue dots on the bottom. It's the same thing. And again, you have the same option with rotating, and the three dots allows you to delete or edit. If you made a spelling mistake, then you can go back and edit your text box. You can also drag the text box anywhere you want. And of course, you want to show your students the same thing I'm doing right now. You want to demonstrate this to your students before they use it. And you can also, the other thing you can do is you can change the color of your letters. But you only have 6 options, unfortunately, but that's fine. All right, so that's a text box, and that's usually good if they're going to do a title of their poster. That's usually a good idea to use a text box for that. It looks like I have a couple minutes left. So real quick on the top here, you have a pen option. Actually, it's a few things. If you click on that little triangle, you've got pens, you've got markers, you've got highlighters, and you've got brushes. So with pens, as you might think, you can draw anything you want. You've got an eraser if you make a little mistake. And then, of course, and this is very important to tell your students, you have the magic undo button up here on the left. So if they made a mistake, they could just undo and it erases anything that they did previous to that. The final thing I'll show you, and you want to be careful about showing your students this if you think they're not going to make a mistake, because right here it says set background, but right next to that, it says clear frame. And if they click clear frame, it erases everything. But remember, you have that magic undo button. So if they make that mistake, they can fix it. But anyway, I just wanted to show you set background. That gives them the option for the background of their Jamboard. And there's only 5 options, or 6 options, I should say. And that's it. And it took me, I spent about the same amount of time that I spent with you teaching my students, because this is really user-friendly. And so it's really easy to use, and students can make mistakes and they can, undo their mistakes. And it's a really fun tool, and it's very collaborative. So what I would like everybody to do sometime in the near future is I'm going to put that link in the chat box just one more time, so you can go to my Google Doc anytime you want in the future. There it is again. It's in the chat room, chat box, excuse me. And like I said, on the bottom, so you pick your group, and then on the bottom is a link to that Jamboard, which has the 9 groups on it. And we see that Chris Shaper is already in there. So you can work, oh, look at that. Someone's already working on it. So you can work in groups, add to this, and you can come back and visit later to see what other teachers have put on here. There's 9 groups. The great thing about Jamboards is that students can work synchronously together at the same time in your Zoom class, or they can work on this as a group asynchronously. So for example, one student adds something at 12 o'clock today, and another student in the same group adds something at 9 o'clock p.m. They all have access. So they can work on it together in your Zoom class, or they can work on it independently as a group. And they can even edit each other's mistakes if they want to. And I believe I am out of time.
No, that's okay, Mr. Ike. I think we appreciate what you have done right now. Thank you. Indeed, you deserve to get this award tomorrow, man, because you are showing us that what you're doing proactively, helping our students move on with enhancing learning. That's great. Anybody has a question?
No, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. Mr. Ike,
Yes.
could you just tell us like what different types of activities you might use for the Jamboard? Somebody wrote in the box, you know, what can you use besides group posters? You're muted, Mr. Ike.
Mr. Noguera, can I have 30 seconds to show a couple examples of what my students have done?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
So let's see if I can just go to my home real quick. So we, one of the things that we did was we had a week where the students researched mental health clinics in their local area for people having stress problems during the pandemic. And they made these flyers for those clinics. And I'm sorry it's loading, but the pictures are loading, but that's just one example of it. So this was a collaborative thing that my students did. And this is a real actual website, the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. And so that's one example. They did a presentation on fire safety was another example. So there's, I mean, the possibilities are limitless of what you can do. So that's just one example.